Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something absolutely insane to take a look at. We've got ourselves a brand new kaiju figure that actually isn't even released yet. This is from Titanic Creations. It is their brand new Super Articulated Titanicus figure, and what's really cool about this is they recently had basically asked me if I wanted to take a look at the prototype just to show it off to you guys, let people know about the figure and kind of make people more aware of its release. So you can pre-order it while, again, the pre-order is still available. And what's cool is actually if you pre-order this, you'll get $10 off of the upcoming Kaiju City Pack that they are releasing, which honestly may be one of the greatest Kaiju releases ever once it is officially released. You could see again basically what it is a massive city. Well, I mean, I guess it's not that massive, but in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to kaiju figures, there has never been anything like this before. So it's honestly groundbreaking from Titanic Creations to create something like this. And you can basically see again when it comes to dioramas and displays, and even if you were to make your own stop motion video and everything like this, is a piece that would be massively helpful to pretty much any kaiju collector, and also just generally an amazing addition to any kaiju collection. So the fact that if you pre-order this, you do get a discount on that once that is officially available, again, is absolutely awesome. So again, as I mentioned, this is just the prototype. This is just something I get to take a look at, and then I'm going to send it back to Titanic Creations so they can then move forward with the production of the figure. That also is something to take into consideration when we look at this figure, because certain parts of this, again, are actually glued in place, so we won't be able to articulate it completely the way we would like. Again, seeing as though it is just a prototype, it's obviously not the final product. That's very important to keep in mind. Once the figure is officially available and finished and everything, it will be just as impressive and durable as all of the other Titanic Creations figures that I have reviewed here on the channel so far. But again, some areas I probably won't really be able to mess with as far as the articulation goes, but as you move through the figure, you can see the articulated joints are just as plentiful as ever when it comes to a Titanic Creations release. You can also see just how incredibly impressive the figure is. Another thing that is really cool is so far up until this point, when it comes to their super articulated kaiju figures, they've all been basically different creatures from different films, like you've had Yongari and Gorgo and Pulgasari and stuff like that. This is the very first original creation from Titanic Creations to get this super articulated action figure treatment. So a very, very monumental figure in the grand scheme of things for Titanic Creations. One of the many reasons why I feel like it is just so important to get this figure, again, pre-ordered and get it completely funded and available. But if we go ahead and get nice and close, and my camera focuses, there we go, you can see the head sculpt looks absolutely awesome. It's got almost a little bit of like a Godzilla feel to it, basically just a giant lizard-like feel, which, many kaiju are usually just basically giant lizards, so it has that familiar feeling that you know and love when it comes to a massive monster like this. But the skin texture and everything looks great on the figure. You can see the nostrils, you can also see the eyes. The eyes are painted with just a white, and you can also see another thing that's really cool about the figure is the fact that we have such insanely impressive spines on this. Now, these spines, again, with the really neat translucent material and everything, that's something that previously Titanic Creations had never done. So that's all brand new when it comes to their line. And look at how insanely impressive it is as you move through, really making it, again, one of the most striking kaiju figures that I think I've ever seen. You can see, again, this huge spike leading up and off of the head here, looking really cool. I like that it starts out with a really nice dark blue and then transitions out to a much lighter blue as you lead out there toward the tip. And again, the actual texturing of that is super nicely done, and of course the fact that it is, a little translucent makes it really cool. As far as the articulation goes, again, like I said, we won't be able to articulate everything on this one, but you can articulate some areas, of course, and we can, of course, articulate the jaw. We've got all of the teeth sculpted out and, of course, painted with a white as you move around. They look really quite nice. They definitely have kind of like that genuine sharp look to them, which is good. You can see the tongue there on the inside of the mouth. The inside of the mouth does sport kind of like a reddish tone or like a dark pinkish tone. Try to get a nice angle in there where we could see it all. You can see pink on the upper side of the inside of the mouth. There's also a hole in the back of the throat, and that is because it does have some very interesting sort of, I don't know if I'd say it's atomic breath, but almost like freeze breath that we have that comes out of the Titanicus figure. It definitely has, like, some of the spines have almost like a blue-green. Like, you can see it's definitely more green as you lead out toward the tips, whereas this one starts out in the dark blue, but transitions to a beautiful light blue as you lead out, and it really does not want to focus on it. But you can see, again, it looks really cool. Also has that nice translucent look like the spine and everything of the figure does, so that is also super impressive. But obviously that's where that would then go. As you lead back through the head, you can also see all sorts of random little spikes popping up here and there. A few here on the side of the head. You can see some more as you lead down here into the side of the neck area, as well as some more down here on the underside of the throat, which is really cool. And they all, again, have that very nice, genuine, sharp look to them. They actually don't feel sharp, which is nice. Like, I mean, I guess kind of a little bit, but like, they don't feel dangerously sharp or anything by any means. But as you move down into the neck, you've got like some skin wrinkles and folds and stuff. As you move up into the side of the neck, some more nice, very rough and rugged looking scales. Now, one thing about this figure is it was sculpted by the legendary Dope Pope, so you know you are getting a super impressive sculpt and a very highly detailed sculpt. And you can absolutely see that as you continue to move through the figure, moving along the back of the head down into the neck. Again, you've got all of these very impressive spines moving down, and again, they all have that super nice looking appearance to them with the translucent material first of all, but the different variations of blues and greens, and it also has such a really nice shine to it, making them pop so nicely. And again, just like with everything on this figure, the texturing is out of this world. You also have more articulation. Again, I have to be very careful because, like I said, it is a prototype, but you can move this area of the head and this area of the neck, so that does help again when it comes to articulation on the figure. Now, of course, when the figure is officially released, I am fully planning on reviewing the figure here on my channel, so I'll obviously show you guys a better look at the actual articulation and everything once the figure is officially released, but we have to make sure that the pre-order gets filled first so we can even get the figure made in the first place, so make sure you pre-order this as soon as possible. But as you move down into the body, the skin becomes much rougher and rugged again, really large sort of scaly skin texture as you move down into the back of the figure. As you lead down into the arms, you can really get a sense of the musculature of the arm. Same deal as you lead down into the lower part of the arm and like the forearm and everything. We can also see on top of that the hand sculpted really nicely. We've got 4 digits for the hands. We can see the fingers and even like the knuckles. Focus, camera. Even the knuckles of the hands are really impressively sculpted. My camera doesn't want to show it to you. There you go. But they look really good. The claws are all painted with a white. They all also have a nice, genuine, sharp look to them, which is also a huge plus. The wrist is definitely glued, but I think we could probably articulate the arm a little bit so you can articulate the elbow. And it absolutely does appear to be able to swivel. And you can also articulate this area of the arm, and it also moves out away from the body. So again, you definitely have quite a bit of posability with the figure like you would expect when it comes to a Titanic Creations release. As you move up into the back, here we have the absolute largest spine, and I think it's one of the most defining aspects of Titanicus. And as I said earlier, it has again that bluish tone, but as we move out, it has like that nice greenish tone as you lead out there toward the tip of it, and it looks super cool. The texturing looks super cool as well, and it almost looks like it actually has like bubbles inside. Wow, it really does, which is actually super cool. I don't know for sure if that's like how the figure will be in the final production of it, but I absolutely hope it will be because that looks amazing. But again, the texturing and everything looks great the entire way out, even though this is created with a very interesting, again, see-through sort of a material. It is so highly detailed, and the detail pops really nicely and very impressively. As you move down, you can see there is midsection articulation as well. I don't know if I'm going to mess with that too much. Not really. I don't want to again, damage the actual prototype. That would be very bad. But as we move down, we again have a few more spines sticking up here on the side of the kaiju, sticking out basically on the sides of this gigantic one in the mid-back area. They're also, again, colored in the same similar ways we see on the larger one on the back with the blue transitioning out to like a greenish blue. If we move down along the underside of the figure, you can see, again, kind of an armored look to the skin texture down here as well. A little bit of musculature kind of shown off in that area as well. We can also see a lighter gray moving down through that area. When you lead down into the legs, I also love one thing that I keep seeing on this figure is every once in a while you see a little bit of subtle blues kind of popping up like under the scales. That's really nice touch for the figure, and the paintwork just, you know, adding a little extra life to it. But we have very rough and rugged skin texture moving down through the thigh. You can also see, again, the muscle definition shown off, but again, shown off in a way where it does not in any way, shape, or form take away from that rough and rugged style of skin texture. You have a very interesting look to the front here of the leg, basically moving through the shin back into the calf, and kind of like a huge spike that moves up here in front of the leg. And then you move down into the foot sculpt, and as we can see, we do have 4 toes right here in the front of the foot. You also have like some scoots that move down through those toes, and the claws are all painted again with a white. They do have a very nice, genuine, sharp look to them as well. And again, the articulation in the leg is going to be pretty much the same, you know, what you would expect, forward and back, also out away from the body a little bit, which we can see, again, a little wiggle room right there. You also have articulation in the knee, and then articulation in the foot. Again, I'm trying not to articulate it too much, but I do want to get kind of a feel. Obviously, you can swivel that area and swivel the ankle as well. So that looks really nice. And again, the skin texture also looks really good down there on the foot. And then we lead out into the tail. And as we lead out into the tail, of course, you're going to be met with tons of articulated joints the entire way out. But we also have more of those spines moving down, those like spikes following the tail. Actually, not even on the spine, kind of around the spine. The spinal column has kind of almost like a scoot-like appearance moving down. And then these spikes leading down along the side of the tail, which looks really cool. And I really like the way that they've articulated this with, of course, the numerous different joints in the tail, but they do it in a way where it doesn't really stand out as like distracting in any way. Some people take issue with articulated figures because there are so many seams, but I feel like the seams of Titanic Creations figures really blend nicely together so they don't stand out in an ugly way, which is also a huge plus for this and, of course, every other figure they release. But the skin texture, again, looks really good. Large scales pretty much moving out. You can also see like some wrinkles and stuff here and there as you lead along, and you lead all the way out there into that very interesting ending there to the tail, where we have, again, kind of like more spikes and stuff leading the entire way out, which there are a ton following along the tail. And then we've got this crazy finish to the tail, which again has that very nice translucent material for the tail, and pretty much the same style with the blue and like that blue-green as you lead out, looking really nice. We have a bit of a different style of skin texture for the underside of the tail as well. And then, of course, you can articulate the tail, pretty much the standard sort of articulation that you would get with a tail like this that just has so many articulated joints. But again, like I said, I'm not going to move it too much. I did want to get a little bit of a feel for the articulation, but I definitely don't want to damage the prototype because, you know, the production of this figure is going to stem from this masterpiece. But you can see, again, the figure is, you know, being an articulated figure, it's going to look the same over here. You can get a good look, though, a good feel for the figure and just how insanely impressive it is. It's by far one of the best figures that I've seen come from Titanic Creations so far. Honestly, even though they have, again, released some kaiju in their line that are, you know, figures that we've been wanting for years, stuff I never expected to get, like Yongari and Gorgo and Pulgasari, but like this is probably the most impressive looking figure that they are releasing. Like in hand, it has got to be one of the most impressive kaiju figure that I've seen, period. Like that is absolutely incredible looking. And you also get a super cool ship, which you can see, again, kind of like a crushed and broken ship, as Titanicus clearly does not care for this ship and has now destroyed it. But it's also painted quite nicely. You've got like a red stripe moving down, a white for the boat itself, and then you've got some blues and stuff, kind of like, it looks like a grayish tone there following along. Very nicely detailed as well, and of course a really fun extra to the figure. Now, as far as a size goes, Obviously, it's quite large. Definitely has some pretty impressive size to it. For a length from, actually, let's go ahead and move it over here. From the tail to that spike, about 15 inches or around 38 centimeters. And then for a height from the ground to the top of that spike, now about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to Titanicus, and as you can see, it's definitely quite large, and in fact is significantly larger than every other figure that I have standing here next to it. And just to show you again how much larger this figure is than many of the other Titanic Creations releases, here we have Gorgo, which this is actually the aquatic version I just recently reviewed on the channel. Very much so the same figure as before, just a totally different color scheme that we have on this beauty, but you can very clearly see that Titanicus again is significantly larger than Gorgo. Then just a few randoms. Here we have the Hiya Toys 2014 Godzilla, which we can see is definitely smaller than Titanicus. We also have my SH Monster Arts 1972 Godzilla, which as well is smaller than Titanicus. Bringing in a Playmates Godzilla, obviously also significantly smaller than Titanicus. And then something that I think is really impressive, we have my Titanosaurus from Bandai next to Titanicus, and as you can see, Titanicus is actually, because of that spike up there on the head, slightly taller, and that is very impressive because this Titanosaurus from Bandai is quite tall and is almost always the tallest kaiju figure that I bring in for a comparison, and again, that just shows you that this Titanicus really does have some nice size to it. And even more impressive, when you bring in the King of the Monsters, Hiya Toys Godzilla, clearly Titanic Creations figure here, Titanicus, can very much so hold its own against that Godzilla. And that Godzilla is pretty much always the largest Godzilla that I bring in for a comparison as well. So I would think after those comparisons, you should have a pretty healthy dose of respect for the size of this Titanicus. So this brand new Titanic Creations Titanicus figure is honestly fantastic. Like, in person, I am so much so excited for the release of this and pretty much dying to actually be able to own this figure and have it in my collection, because it is by far one of the coolest looking and most striking kaiju I have ever seen. Sculpt wise, they absolutely knocked this out of the park. There is a vinyl version that they have out, and again, it does of course follow the same trend, which that one is also sculpted by Dope Pope, so you know, he knows exactly what he's doing as far as that goes. But obviously this thing is just like so much more amped up and so much more incredible than their older one, and now of course featuring tons and tons of articulation, making this, as per usual, a stop motion dream, but also just generally a kaiju collector's dream, because it gives you the ability to pose and display your kaiju no matter what way you want, in any way, shape, or form. But when it comes to the overall design of this figure, it is really cool. You know, it's my first time actually getting a chance to look at one of the original sculpts from Titanic Creations, not something that, you know, is based off of like a film or something somewhere else. So that's really neat to be able to see this. And again, they have a few other kaiju actually available already that you can purchase that, again, follow their vinyl figures, which I wouldn't mind seeing those eventually get super articulated as well. But the figure as a whole is by far one of the most impressive looking kaiju, and even standing next to like a Hiya Toys figure, I feel like it shines more impressively than even the Hiya figures do, especially when it comes to the crazy design that we have. The skin texture is extremely vibrant on the figure. The sculpt itself, of course, is beyond highly detailed. Dope Pope would never settle for any less than the best detailing on his figures, and you can see that moving through the entire Titanicus figure. Even though I haven't had the ability to really articulate it too much, the articulation does seem quite smooth, but of course we'll have to wait until the final figure does release to get a better feel for the articulation. However, I can say with confidence, considering I own quite a few of the Titanic Creations super articulated figures already, their articulation is always super smooth, and definitely some of the smoothest out there when it comes to articulated figures. I also love the fact that we have these really cool translucent spines and everything. The material they've used is awesome. It just looks so good and adds another level of flashiness to this figure. And you also have the very cool kind of like crystal atomic breath, as well as the boat. That's all stuff that they are fully intending on including. Now, to get this figure made, they do need 300 units sold to begin production. At 350 units, you then get the breath effect. Additional hands would come into play at 400 units sold, and the destroyed boat at 500 units. The last time I looked, I believe they were somewhere around like 149, 150 as far as the pre-orders go, even though this is still fairly early on into their pre-order. But it is, again, super important that more people take part in that pre-order and get this figure into production, because as I stated, it doesn't even begin production until you get to 300. So we're about halfway there right now. So I am going to include links in the description to where you can head on over to the Titanic Creations website right now, get this figure pre-ordered, and of course, get this figure made, because it would be an absolute travesty if for some reason this one didn't get funded and didn't get created, because it is gorgeous here in person. So make sure you check out the links that I will include in the description. Head on over there, get this pre-ordered, and of course, like I said earlier, that's going to save you some money on the actual Kaiju City set that's coming, which is going to be insane and a must-have for everyone. So why not save some money and get an amazing Kaiju? And on top of that, look at this insane box art that's going to come with it. The box art is absolutely gorgeous as well. So if you are a Kaiju fan, you absolutely need this in your collection. So make sure you check those links, pre-order it right now, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.